What do you guys think of the women who hate men? I pity anyone who hates any other entire group of people. That's someone who has either suffered badly or is failing to face something horrible inside of themselves. All or nothing thinking is a red flag. Don't get involved with them. There are plenty of stable women who don't say that sort of shit. Only a Sith deals in absolutes, which in itself is an absolute, proving Yoda was actually a Sith Lord. Wasn't that Obi-Wan? What do you guys think of the women who hate men? I think they are on Reddit giving each other advice. Yeah, FDS is a toxic cesspool that somehow hasn't been banned. What's FDS? I have a coworker who spends most of the day talking trash about men and going on about how important her boyfriend is in her life. If I talked about women like she trash talks men, my head would be on a spike. I'm about ready to quit. Lol. I once told a coworker about how an ex-girlfriend tried to stab me. She asked what did I do to deserve it. A 911 operator asked me that when an ex-girlfriend was stalking me. Yeah. But are you sure you didn't deserve it? I used to hang out with this group who were hardcore feminists. One of them liked to start s and felt really comfortable in saying I hate men and men are trash around me, then giving me a side eye. I've never done anything to this person or to anyone in the group. I stopped hanging out with them. So toxic. The thing about feminism is everyone calls themselves a feminist if they believe they are doing what's right to fight against the oppression of women. Some PPL see that as giving all genders fair treatment and opportunities. But some see it with an us vs them mentality, an excuse for hating a whole demographic of PPL. And I know it's a minority and they're the more extreme ones, but I hate when it's used this way. People have a tendency to think things are a zero-sum game. Look at nationalism. X is the bad people, we are the good ones. For us to be better off, they need to be removed. etc etc. I like it when women wave their red flags like that. I know to move on before I waste time on her. More times than I can count I've had women be like I hate men, but then turn to me and be like oh not you though. It's like a normal thing. Doesn't make you feel great, but at least I've been assured it's not, usually, directed at me, as if that magically makes it not mildly insulting to me. BC, you know, when they say this, they're looking at you as a man, like almost directing at you, and then waving it off like, but not you, we love you Yalas 3. It is annoying. I don't think I've ever said I hate women before in any context. It's a dumb thing to say. Some racists say the same thing. Oh, not you though. You are one of the good ones. I was out with a couple of them one night a while ago and very wasted, and apparently I said basically that. I was like, well, it's almost like if you're saying I hate Asians is horrible. They smell like fish. They can't keep their eyes open. Yes queen. Oh but we love you though, you're one of the good ones for contextimation. And one of them like a light switch went off and she was like I'd never thought of it like that, and then she went into drunk cry mode. To her credit she did take that to heart in sober mode, even though I think I meant it more like a dig slash to get a laugh at the time. Normally I'd just have ignored it, but was probably several mojitas in. I used to listen to them to try to understand their feelings. I later figured out that no matter what, you can never remain one of the good ones in their eyes forever. Their bias will come out eventually, so it's best to just quietly back away. It's really unfortunate, because a lot of these women come from a place of repeated traumas inflicted on them by the other gender. I used to fall into this category until my sons became much more aware of what I was saying. About 2 to 4 years old, I realized that while I have had terrible trauma inflicted on me by men for my entire life, that doesn't mean they deserve to grow up in a household where their mother openly expresses hating their gender. It opened a whole new outlook. Honestly, the men who abused me are trash, and I hate them. I have an opportunity to raise my boys into men who understand boundaries, respect, and consent. It was an opportunity to change the narrative. My sister is like that. I ignore her. Tell me she is still young. Unfortunately no. She's older than me. Are you a kid? What do you guys think of the women who hate men? I try not to. I feel about the women who hate men the same way I feel about anyone who generalizes and hates every individual in an entire vaguely defined group for some very personal reason. You need help, and I'm not the one to give it. I'm saying this as someone who wrestles with his own problems. Actually, by saying that you feel the same way about those who generalize and hate every individual in a group, you yourself are becoming that which you hate on the most. Joke. What a horrible thing for a mother to say. Someone who says that they hate men is a sexist, who deserves to be treated as such. I certainly would have nothing to do with them, if at all possible, and would contact ours to make that happen if necessary. I wish there was an amenable our department for real life. Hello. Ours. My mom is being an a-hole again. I'm writing her up, and I think you should send her a warning that she'll be fired or demoted if she keeps it up. It would be awesome. Mom's on a pip. I try to stay away from toxic people in my life. That sort of stuff on Facebook is driving me away. Stupid people saying stupid things and not listening to facts. As someone who grew up dealing with a narcissistic mother, I don't really see the difference between their ideology and an abusive, selfish, toxic, narcissistic parent like mine. Entitlement is rampant. Common sense is low. Common knowledge is low. Reasonability is almost non-existent. And there's a severe lack of wisdom to their arguments. They tend to think exclusively with feelings instead of logic when they need to use both to make good decisions. Meaning they are active emotionally with little to no intuition or logically sound judgment that's anchored in the ideology that their feelings matter over everything else because they feel they can't be wrong. Basically they are Karens with a flawed ideology that they vehemently follow, which makes them not worth paying attention to more than checking their privileges. Best parallel I can think of is the women that lied to start the Salem witch trials in which 19 people were hung after being convicted of witchcraft. Then later many of the accusers admitting it was a lie conceived out of boredom. They cry wolf because they feel entitled to destroy lives because they made it their cause, and then move on as if nothing happened without a care in the world. But if something actually happened where they needed one of the people they purposefully got killed without sympathy, they would beg for help unapologetically and without a hint of gratitude. If it smells like S everywhere you go, check your own feet. Cool quote. After years at university as one of few men, occasionally the only one, I got used to it and don't respond to it anymore in my experience. I think it was always only spoiled brats that say that. This, generally, people uneducated on the definition of hate. It's bigotry, plain and simple, and it's immensely damaging to boys who hear this attitude. I normally avoid those women, since it's not all men, just a couple that hurt them. Which I get, trust me, I get it. I've been burned by every woman I've been in a relationship with, but they are normally the same type of women who will give you S if you said that all women were bad. They just come across as hypocritical, and most of the time, in my experience, they don't have the best intention / personality to keep a dude. Hell, one time I had a girl crushing on me and was saying how all men treated her like crap, but found out later on she was in a relationship with 2 other men and wanted me to be the third. No thank you. I just want to be clear, since this is Reddit, I'm not saying all women are like this. It's just based on what I've experienced personally, and I know it's not true on a general scale. That being said, not all men are bad either. But I'd be setting myself to get flamed if I go any further, so I'll just stop right there, lol. I don't. They've already written you off without knowing you. They are not even worth thinking about. Trauma victims and like traumatized men, they are hiding their pain by becoming that victimizer. I hope someone helps them learn to acknowledge this and grow from it. That ain't gonna be me, though. I just shrug and hope their life gets better. I understand they most likely have terrible experiences with men, so I understand where they're coming from. But obviously I ain't interacting with someone who hates me. I wanna hear out their reasons why. Most of them hate like maybe a dozen men. It's hard to even have a conversation about it though. There's a script that's very one-sided throughout history. Closed bracket comma. Language that's constructed to disarm discussion, privilege, patriarchy, and a predetermined pathway through the discussion that makes you a sexist / misogynist / toxic male etc. If you don't agree within a minute or two, I generally consider men or women who think like this to be lost and beyond saving. I'm lucky. I've had amazing men all through my life, from my dad to cousins and friends, and it's all led to me having good boundaries with significant others. If I had a boyfriend who was trash, I chalked it up to him as an individual being trash, not the whole group. I'm sorry your mom said those horrible things and had those biases. You deserved better. I don't think of them at all. This is the only time I thought about them. I feel bad for them, and I mean that literally, as in I worry about them. Most of the women in that category have been traumatized in some way, and making sweeping associations like that is a classic sign of PTSD. Others have simply been propagandized to believe most men pose a threat to them, most commonly by taking women's sexual assault statistics to mean the same percentage of men are predators, rather than there instead being a substantially smaller percentage of perpetrators who are serial predators, and many are probably in both categories, as once you've formed such sweeping generalizations, data that justify them are very attractive, and you're less likely to scrutinize them because they confirm what you already believe, i.e., confirmation bias. Regardless, could you imagine living in a world where you feared or hated half the population? It hurts them far more than it hurts me. I've worked with mostly women for about 30 years and I've very rarely met women that hate all men. They say they hate men, but they only hate some specific men. They're as pathetic as men who hate women. F you. I hate everyone. Weirdly, that's a better stance.